Welcome to Sprinkle with Hope podcast with your host, Jason. We are so excited to have Lee Liston with us today. Lee, thank you so much for joining our show today. We appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm really excited. I love interviews. I love talking, so it's kind of a perfect little scenario.
Yeah, that's awesome. We like talking too, so
Good.
works great for the both of us. So, Lee, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to our listeners that maybe don't know you or aren't familiar with your work, if you could just kind of give a little brief history synopsis and what who Lee is and what you got going on.
Sure. So, my name is Lee Liston. I'm originally from West Valley, Utah. That's where I grew up. I went to Cypress High School. I went to Lake Ridge Elementary, Brockbank Junior High, and then I went to Cypress High School. And then after graduating, went on a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Served in the Philippines, Tagalog speaking. Came home. Started, at that point, your life is your own, so you're figuring out who you are. And at that point, some people on my mission and things like that had talked to me about, being an actor and thinking that I should pursue that. And then I met a director named Barrett Bergen who happened to be serving in my YSA ward. And that just said, he has been my friend since for 6 or 7 years. And he was like, you should be an actor. And we've been friends. So I've been pursuing acting, fitness, and just music, but just overall entertainment and just doing the best I can for the world.
That's awesome.
So you consider yourself an actor, right?
Yes, I do.
And what kind of movies have you been in? What interests have you been?
Well, it was kind of a weird thing. It was because I worked at Wells Fargo for quite some time. And when I was working there, and then my schedule could change week to week. So I could say, hey, this is when I have an acting gig. This is when I have an acting gig. And I was just kind of taking whatever came without a real focus. But it was something that was providing income and providing, fulfillment. So I was jumping into it. And so it kind of became that thing where I've evolved into running it as a business and making a full acting. I'm going to be fully honest. The question came, and then as I was giving you the answer, the question went away, and I was like, am I even answering the question?
Yeah. That's all good. You did answer the question. So yeah,
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Shane.
Besides acting, is there anything else that you're involved in right now?
I'm involved in quite a few things. In the sense of I'm working. Working with is kind of subjective, but I'm working with Gymshark right now. I've done a video with them previously. They're an athletic clothing brand, and they're designing clothes for me specifically. And so I'll be the first individual that they've ever designed clothes with custom clothes for, essentially. And I'm currently working with, let's see, as far as acting goes, I do a lot of I'm trying to get back into fitness. It used to be bodybuilding. Now it's more into heart health and longevity and things like that. And then I have a lot of music. A lot of music. I have 4 or 5 songs that I've never released before that are fully mixed and mastered and things. So I just have a lot of things in the pipeline, but acting is my primary focus.
Okay. That's awesome. So what kind of challenges have you faced in life? I know that, you're kind of going on this mission and you're, acting and stuff. So what kind of challenges have you faced and how did you kind of work through those challenges to be the man you are today?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty encompassing thing. I think we're all built out of the challenges that we overcome or don't, in a very, very real way. I think though, where are you looking specifically? With my dwarfism, being a member of the church, or as an actor, what specifically?
Well, we have a brother that's, that's also a little person. And so, we know what challenges he's faced. And so have you faced similar challenges in that? And how has that kind of evolved you into the person you are?
Well, with your brother having dwarfism, I think it really reflects on is you can probably resonate with is you're kind of a celebrity even if you don't want to be.
Right.
You go into a store, people notice you, they're staring. Parents don't know how to address it. And there's a lot of, you may have other insecurities on top of and that just kind of amplifies those. And I think it's kind of been managing my own personal like self-esteem, but also while managing how I respond to those things, right? Like I remember
Right.
when I was a kid, I read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, like it was for kids by like Stephen Covey's son. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he wrote in there, there's a soda bottle. We're either reactive or we're proactive, in our approach. And I've worked very, very hard to get to a point in my life where I can be proactive. When I know that, I can smile and wave. I can show that I'm a human. I can show the parents I'm a human, and that I know that it's there, and that it doesn't have to be this thing that they have to be ashamed of because a child is simply just discovering, someone
Right.
who is different than them.
Yeah. I love that answer. And the world is better because of people like you in it. And so I appreciate, I appreciate you and bringing these up because they could be difficult topics to discuss. I know, my brother's gone through some pretty difficult things with self-esteem and self-worth and other things like that because of being a little person. And so I appreciate, who you are and kind of what you guys stand for. I love, I've interacted with you guys since I was a kid. When my brother was little, we would go to little people parties, and so I love, being around just great spirits like yourself. And so I appreciate you and kind of who you are and what you stand for.
Thank you very much. It's very cool.
That's awesome. So what do you have going on that you're most excited about? What you're looking forward to?
Mm, I think overall, I mean, man, this is all tentative and things like that, but I think the biggest thing I'm looking forward to is multiple things. Number one is growing my acting career, right? Like, 'cause I run it like a business, and you maintain that humility, knowing that you're running this whole thing and knowing what you're doing it for. It's not for yourself, even though it is a very vain career, in itself. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. I'm trying to get on a couple big projects. I don't want to announce quite yet,
Yeah.
but
Sure.
very, very big and would be very big breaks in my career. But obviously, like if it's not this, it'll be something else. Um, and then my goal is, if things pan out with Jim Shark, and this is all on them. This isn't an expectation. This would just simply be something kind of amazing in itself. Is getting clothing for little people, building, making niche clothing and custom clothing, and making a process where, athletic, good looking athletic gym wear or athletic clothing can be worn by anybody, especially with dwarfism, and that happens to be my condition. So that's kind of who I speak for, you
Sure.
know, in that sense. So, and I want to build programs for little people with dwarfism, not necessarily. There's a lot of little people you'll find if you start researching that they're extreme. They're either really really overweight or they're like extremely buff and they're into bodybuilding. And there's no middle ground of just health.
Mm,
I'm more worried about the dwarfism as a whole than I am about being the world's biggest bodybuilder with dwarfism
Yeah.
or losing my weight.
yeah. That's awesome. So I have a couple of questions for you, but what was the best gift you've ever received and why?
I really wanted to think about that.
Yeah,
I
please
think
do.
it, I think because it's a really question that you don't want to take lightly, but I think that was my friend Barrett. That that I believe Heavenly Father gave to me. I have had so many ups and downs. You know, there's a lot of energy to take in, to be working and have all this pressure and you know, and work with it in the right way and feel not, and you can feel overwhelmed in the process. And my friend Barrett has been my friend, you know, through all these things, through the best, through the worst, through the, you know, ups and downs. And, and I just think it's like, man, and I started, you know, and I don't know if either of you remember the church, um, but you know, I started, you know, I do a lot of routines. I do morning routines, night routines, and he was like, "Why don't you just make the Book of Mormon like part of your routine?" And I've read it every night, and I read over it with my like I listen to the audio and I follow along, you know, just so I really take it nice and slow. I'm not rushing it. I'm just enjoying the process, and it's just it's been something in your life where you have somebody that supports you literally through thick and thin as a friend and as a brother, both career wise, spirituality wise, and just on all fronts. I think that could be one of my answers there.
I think that's incredible that you were asked a question, what's the best gift that you were given, and you immediately turned to someone in your life. That to me is what life is about. It's about lifting each other up, being there for each other, good, bad, whatever it is, that we're there for each other. I commend you for bringing that up. I think that's such a great thing, to focus on the people in your life instead of the things. The things are going to go away eventually, but it's the people and those relationships that we have that won't ever go away. That's really awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So Shane, I don't know if you have another question, but you know, I heard this question the other day on a different podcast, and it, you know, we've often heard the question, you know, what would we do if we knew we couldn't fail? I kind of want to flip that on its head and say, if you knew you were going to fail, what would you do?
If I knew I was going to fail, what would I do?
Because I think while you're thinking about it, just, you know, I think oftentimes you know, that's what makes us who we are. If we're going to go after something and we knew we were going to fail at it, that's where we know our heart is, right? Because if you knew you were going to fail at it and you're going to do it anyway, that's where that human element is. And I think that's where we, you know, kind of reside. Our heart resides is in that thing that, because fail is the stepping stone to success. We, you know, we should know that, or we hopefully we know that. But if we're focused on that thing, I think that's, you know, that thing that you're going to fail at, what would you do? Because that's kind of where I think your decisions lie. I know it's probably a difficult question to answer, but you know, I like to flip things on its head sometimes and just think about it in a different way.
Yeah, you know, as hard as it is in this day and age, with access to so much, yet sometimes getting so little. Ironically, I think it's kind of relationships, pursuing relationships and vulnerability, because you know, r- relationships are gonna fail. I had a, you know, and I won't say her name, you know, just because like I'm not about
Sure.
blasting, but I had an ex girlfriend that we would go on dates sometimes, and I would go to pay for it, and she goes, "No, it's okay, I'll pay." You know, like for myself, and you know, we were dating at the time, so I was, you know, it was a little odd. Like I was like, okay, well, I asked you to do this and that, and I remember like talking to her about it, and I was like, well, why do you never like let me pay? Like, I mean, even if it's like $10, like that's not breaking the bank, and well, hopefully not breaking the bank,
Yeah.
but by any means. But it was just like, well, if this fails, I don't want to feel guilty that you paid for things. And I remember like hearing that and just like, you know, and having so little faith in a relationship or relationships in general, or having some kind of something happen that brought you to think that way. You know, money is money, but like that became very symbolic. So I think, but you know, and that relationship did fail over
Mm.
time, and I think the biggest thing is like you want to fail so you get the nuggets when you're winning and you're showboating, when you got the touchdown and you're kind of running around and taunting everybody, like you're not learning anything in that process. There is no
Right.
learning. You are at the top. For a brief moment, we all have moments when we're doing really good and we know everything in those moments. And then when we fail, we know nothing in those moments. And so I just think really where the most value comes. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Absolutely. I like that answer because I think it, I agree. Relationships are, a situation where it could fail and often sometimes does. I've had failed relationships with friends or whatever, right? So I do like your answer. I think it fits well with kind of how I was looking. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't looking at anything specific. I just wanted to kind of flip that on its head and just see what we get.
Yeah.
So Lee, we have some questions that we call
The
the
double.
double down dose. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, how would you define hope?
That I'm thinking a lot about that because we're in pretty tumultuous times. There's a lot of friction. There's a lot of it's been going on all the way since March. But seriously, and yeah, the intensity's gone up, but it's really been this way for quite some time, even before COVID and the election and all that jazz. There's always been this never-ending friction, and I think is this is gonna sound so cheesy. It may or it may not, but I'm just like prepping you. But I think you have to kind of become hope, um,
Mm.
because if you've ever seen Harry Potter, in the third film, it's called The Prisoner of Azkaban, and at that time, Harry is fighting Dementors, and he's out there, he's fighting, he's getting overwhelmed, and there's this Patronus that comes out of nowhere and saves him from all these Dementors. Now, he believes at the time that it's his dad. That it's his dad that's saving him. The Patronus resembles his dad, and he was like, "Whoa, this is awesome." Then later on in the film, they have to go back in time, use the time turner, and change some things. And he, in turn, is sees himself getting attacked by the Dementors, and is waiting for his dad to show up and save him, but he doesn't. But then he realizes, he goes, "Okay, well, I have to be the one to do this, then I guess." Thus realizing that it was him all along that
Mm.
sent the Patronus to save him from the Dementors. I think a lot of times we put too much hope on things. We lean it on hope on an out. We lean on outcomes too much. We lean on the outcomes of we're not adaptable. We lean out the outcome of the election. We lean on the outcome of of our life, of what we make, and we lean on so many outcomes that we never truly fully like understand that hope is being adaptable and building that within yourself, not being a fake optimist or being like it'll all work out, but like being like what can I do today in my own world.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love that answer. That really is awesome. I think we definitely haven't gotten that response from anybody we've asked that. So I really appreciate that answer. And so the second part of that double down dose that we ask is, how would you define love, or what is love to you? What does that mean?
Well, it I think it is love is like literally the most complicated word, and it is a verb, it is a noun, it is literally defined so much. And I think when I think of love, right, and I don't know, and you don't necessarily have to be religious, but I believe in this. It's a sense of like selfless energy. It's
Mm.
not it, like love is like felt the most when we're giving our energy to other people, we're giving our time to other people, when we're giving some form of sacrifice to other people, we're taking care of ourselves, and that's self-love, right? Like we're
Right.
taking care of our needs, we're taking care of our, we're eating, we're sleeping, and we're doing everything right. But there's always love. You're giving it where it's needed and not where it's wanted. I can sit here and want love, and expect love or be entitled to love, but it's not something that merely just you know comes comes your way because you want it. And there's a lot of gratitude we have, and if you have gratitude, you can kind of really see where all the love is coming from. But overall, I just think it's built on selflessness overall.
Yeah,
That's great.
that's a great definition. I agree with you. I think love is hard to define, and I was listening to somebody else talk about love, and they had done this or looked up the study on the heart, and the heart beat or gives off, I can't even remember, it was like 3 or 4 million times more energy than the brain does.
Oh wow.
And so I mean, when I was thinking about that and thinking about love, I think that's why it's so hard to define, because it's so much. When we give love or receive love, we're giving so much energy to the other person, and that's why it hurts sometimes, right? That's why love, it does hurt
Yeah.
when we have a failed relationship or whatever. And I think it's because we're giving so much energy. I can't remember. It was like 3 or 4 or 5 million times more than energy than the brain, which is amazing.
Oh, that's
So
crazy.
anyway,
If,
just made me think of that.
if I can I ask you
Yeah,
about
please.
this? Is on the aspect of love is, this is kind of deep, and you don't have to share it. And I can share mine too. But like, uh, what are your love languages?
I love that, because I think for me, and we've done this in my family or whatever, seeing where my kids, what their love language is. But, for me, it's quality time.
Hmm.
That's, one of my love languages is quality time. And I think that's because I like to be around those that I love, and share that love with them. And then physical touch is the other one. I love to hug and kiss and whatever, high five, if that's, if it's somebody that I love, but we're not going to be affectionate in that way or whatever. But so I appreciate you asking us that question.
Yeah, to
And
me, mine is
yeah,
the same. It's quality time. I value my time with my family, with my friends, with those I really care about. That truly is how I feel love and appreciation for those people who I'm with. It certainly comes down to time.
Yeah.
what are yours, Lee, if you wouldn't mind sharing?
Yeah. No. I think it. Sometimes they'll change, but I mean, I think I would have to say quality time, as well. Just because generally it just being connected with, and obviously physical touch, because that's where intimacy comes in, right?
Right.
There's lust, and then there's intimacy, and then there's where love and lust are two different things, and love and intimacy are so awesome versus love and lust,
Yeah.
and so those kind of same things. So I think that's kind of like when you generally like to do stuff like this and converse, and do like that generally falls into that, and which kind of like just highlights what I was feeling, where it's like, that if you really know someone's love language, you kind of know how to speak to them, and understand that that they do have a language. We all speak different languages, and so it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. That's a good question. We don't typically get asked questions, so
No,
it's good to get a question from our guest. So before we let you go, Lee, we've really enjoyed this discussion. How do you want our listeners to contact you? What are some ways they can get a hold of you?
Well, not at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
But if they want to contact me, I think the best way is either through Instagram. Send me a DM at Lee_Liston on Instagram. Send me an email if it's a business inquiry. send it to bookings at leeliston.com, or Lee, or my personal email is leergliston@gmail.com. I'm really good. I check my email, because I'm always submitting for acting, so I'm checking if I booked something or if I booked an audition, So email is generally what I'm checking the most, especially with people I don't know very well. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And your website is leeliston.com, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Awesome. So, Lee, before we leave, is there any question that we haven't asked that you'd like to either share with us that, something that we haven't asked that you'd like to share, or any last thoughts that you have?
Um, I think the last one I can just a final thought regarding dwarfism is as much as it becomes an identifying thing, like, separate yourself from it. Don't make it all you are. It's like, if what I am is what I have and what I have is lost, then who am I? If I lost my dwarfism, I'd still be Lee. And
Right.
on the very same front, it's like people aren't getting to know you yet. Like, they don't know who you are just by looking at you. But if you wave and smile, that gives them a chance to get to know you. And even more so, like, hey, what's your name there, bud? And saying things to kids. Interact. Don't be afraid to interact with kids. If for any of your listeners that have dwarfism, but focus on self improvement more than anything in the world. Build routines into your life, like I said, do a morning and a night, and just build structure, but also have unlimited creativity. So that's all I have for you.
That's awesome.
Oh, that is awesome. Me and Shane have talked about this before, but identity is a huge part of us. Like, right, what we identify with, that's what we are. And so, I like that you said, who is Lee? You're Lee Liston. You're not this other thing. This is who you are. It's your spirit. What is inside of you, right? That really is what really matters. And so, thank you, Lee, for being you and who you are. And I just have really appreciated this chance to get to talk to you and get to know you a little bit better, and hope that we can have some future interactions together at some point. But thank you again for coming on our show. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank,
Thank you for having
thank you
me.
so much. We will put all of our energy towards you getting those big gigs.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. It's all there'll always be next steps though. So because
Yep.
I'm trying to give back to with what I've been blessed with, but I have to get the break to do that. So I appreciate that.
Yep.
Yeah.